Okay, so today is my birthday, and I don't know how long it's going to take to get this video posted, because yesterday's, I was trying to get posted, and our internet won't stay up long enough to do it. So, not sure what's going on there. I think we're trying to switch internet service providers, and it's kind of not working out. I click on YouTube, and it won't even load before it tells me that the internet's not working. But then, like, if I shut my internet off on my phone because I'm watching a video and something happens and like the internet goes out, I'll turn the Wi-Fi off, and then it will eventually go to, like, non-Wi-Fi internet, and eventually it does it again that way too. So I'm not sure what's going on there. It's really obnoxious. But here we are. We're gonna push through anyway since it's the birthday. I feel like 42 is the start of a new chapter. And I had a thought on something I want to do today. Thought about doing it as a short on YouTube, possibly as a reel or whatever on Instagram. 111 is it? As I'm talking about this. It's just been, like, I woke up and was trying to be in the good space and was being successful at being in that space. And at one point, okay, so I have this thing that, like, just came to me, and I started thinking through it, and then I journaled it, and I wrote it down, and then I wrote it on regular paper outside of the journal beyond that, so I can just read it from there, if I decide to go the scripted route, which I probably will on this one, because me just relying on my words tends to wander a bit, a lot. I think there was at least a couple stories that I started in yesterday's video. It's a theme. That's how I tell stories, where I start on one thing and then I wander off down another path and don't get back to the story. And that, like, yesterday's story had like 2 other points that I didn't get to. I might get to those here later, but we'll see. But still. Anyway, so I wrote it down, and then I had music going. I was playing my my Sappy Short playlist, and just listening to whatever came on. There were a few of them that I went ahead and put on the upcoming, I forget what it's, yeah, I forget what it's called. Anyway, I did the thing so it would add it to what was to play next. It was good. And then I just kind of let it go beyond that. And at one point, because of course this is my Sappy playlist, the song Take My Breath Away comes on. That has been one that's kind of a recurring theme on this whole Twin Flame journey. And it was like, it's one of those songs that has always stood out to me a lot in my lifetime since it came out in the 80s, and I came out in the 80s. But I just always felt especially attached to it in a way. And that was the one that I was listening to on repeat one morning back in June last year. And I was, like, getting ready to go over to my brother's house to hang out with Gracie while he took his wife to work. And I was like eating breakfast and playing the song over and over again, just all at once. I had this thought pop into my head that, it was just strictly God is love, love is God, love is all there is. It's like this whole journey, life, all the ups and downs, has essentially been a love story with God, right? And it's like, even the ridiculously hard and painful parts of it have served a much larger purpose than I think I'm even aware of at this point in time. Although I'm starting to see more and more how it's all, like, fitting in together. Like I've talked about, like, okay, the Twin Flame, like, his name dancing around me literally my entire life, and the different things that have happened along the way. Like, okay, when I was like 4, hanging out over at my cousin's house, the cousin that would go on to be a pain in the ass. But at that time, we were hanging out a lot because he's 3 days older than me, and it was our moms were in the hospital together, so it was an easy thing just to have the little kids play together all the time, right? Because we're the same age. So I remember being over at his house this one day, and we were watching An American Tail, Fievel movies, and in the movie, the song, I've talked about it a lot, the song Somewhere Out There came on, and I remember just being this little 4-year-old kid completely captivated by the song, and just like this feeling of wow, like there could be some kind of story where, sappy story, yes, where we could go about our entire lives learning the lessons that we came here to learn, and then one day, after we learn all the lessons and are finally ready, then we could like come together and like have this amazing existence together, right? So so just this whole happy, sappy, bubbly thing. Yeah, I just remember the idea of it was really exciting to me back then, before like any of that was really on my radar, because the little 4-year-old kid's not really planning on getting married anytime soon. So yeah, and there was a good span of time where I couldn't remember. It's like, was it that early, or was it, sometimes it's like somewhere between 4 and 6. And it's like, I feel more like 4. And then it makes sense, with what I've talked about on like the twin flame stuff. Because, okay, I've explained it this way many times along the way on this YouTube journey. That I feel like he checked in before he incarnated, right? So kind of the song was a trigger point of that. And I remember having this, sort of question of basically, are we still on track, right? At this point in time, with the very little information you have regarding anything in life, are we still on track where this is the existence, this is the path you want to take, this is the route we're going on this journey, right? And I just remember completely being caught up in this idea of this big, amazing love story, and like, yes. And I remember having this sense of, it's going to be very hard, but it will be worth it in the end. And of course, little 4-year-old me can't really, I mean, I heard it or received it, and I was like, yeah, anyway, all that stuff, yes, that one. The one that ends like really with all these amazing things, let's do that existence, right? So, of course, like my whole channel has been focused strongly on a lot of the negative aspects and sorting through and healing from the conditioning that I picked up along the way from my life. But then like that day in the kitchen, like coming back to this other song, there was, I mean, it came out somewhere in that time frame, I believe. It was another one that like every time I heard it, it's like it just like took me away to this other place, right? It's just energetically, it's like, okay, so I'm sitting there, maybe in the car, maybe in the house, whatever, listening to the radio, song comes on, and it's like, physically I'm there, but energetically I'm somewhere else, and just completely like carried away on this like lovey, sappy feeling stuff, right? And I mean, it's par for the course for all these Cancer placements, so you get swept up in things, all the feelings. But especially the lovey ones. Big fan of those. But yeah, it's like then I spent most of my life trying to navigate this whole experience of that's not love, that's not love, that's not love. It's like all these things that were showing me like active demonstrations in my life with my, friends and family close to me, where it's like that's not love. What kind of existence is this? This is shit, right? Who wants that? Where you have to like owe somebody or in order to receive love from them. It's like you're worthy of love just because you exist, but that's not the way the world has wanted us to. It's raining. I'd like rain. The world doesn't want us to experience that feeling, to understand that we are loved just because we exist, and that is enough. It wants us to think that we have to jump through all these like special hoops in order to be lovable and to earn love, that it's as though it were something you could earn. I was like, no, that's not how it works. That's not the point of it. But yeah, so I feel like 42 is the start of a new chapter, right? And there were some things that I talked about wanting to manifest today, which so far I haven't seen them, and that's fine. But I'm also trying not to get like overly attached to the idea either, because that's a dead giveaway for bringing it to a screeching halt. If you need it to happen, then it's more likely to not happen because you need it. And yeah, needs kind of an icky feeling, and not a empowered space. So goodness, how did I wander there? Okay, so the song, Take My Breath Away, back to that one. The other one, I did hear that one this morning too, because of course those two are naturally on like my main sappy playlist that I'm going to listen to. And they're also two that, okay, if I'm in the car with family and listening to a family-friendly station that everybody will be able to, at least tolerate, it's usually going to be either the 80s station or the blend. And those songs are commonly on both of them. So it's like, there we go. That being the point of the whole journey, right? So after, the twin flame activation piece, if you will, something that was brought into my awareness was like, there's been these things that have come up that have resulted in me acting a certain way or thinking a certain thought and kind of moving forward because of that thought, right? So, for example, back in like 2020, I briefly was on the dating apps again just to see what was out there. And even though I knew I really didn't want to meet somebody that way again, even though I had met the one guy that I thought I was going to marry that way, and then the one guy that I did marry and shouldn't have, I met them both on dating apps, right? So, clearly there's something out there, but that wasn't where I wanted to find anybody. But all the same, I got on the dating app to see what was out there. And of course, in that mindset, there was a lot of not real super options. Like I talked about the guy that mentioned if you have or ever have had green hair, which you can't really see this, it looks more like a turquoise there. It looks more like bright green actually on my head. But he said if you have or ever have had green hair, do not even talk to me because I'm looking for somebody I can take to church. As if green on my head makes me unable to walk into a church. Whatever. You know, it was still one of those things that triggered me to act a certain way, or to take on a way of being for a time. It is totally raining. I love rain. I'm getting dripped on through the tree, but not as much as it is out there. But I am getting wet. But whatever. We're gonna roll, right? So there, now you can see the rain on the on the camera. So anyway, the dating app time. One of them, you know, you have to have the parameters for what you're willing to, like if you're willing to, you know, go date a certain, beyond a certain age and all that fun stuff. It appears to be blowing that way, so I'm going to move over here and maybe get a little less wet. I feel like it's raining on my head still, substantially. But you can see that. I'm not going back to my car. I'm just gonna sit here. So kind of wish I had an umbrella, but oh well. So yeah. Anyway, since I had to set like parameters for what I was willing to date, older and younger, it's like that was the first time I really thought about how much younger I was willing to date somebody, right? And for various reasons, I came up with, I didn't think I could date somebody more than 5 years younger than me. But 5 seemed acceptable. So, let's go back to, you know, this this whole twin flame point being this activation thing, and then suddenly realizing things amidst other things and all this. This actually kind of makes me happy. It's my birthday and it's raining on my head and I love it. Anyway, so twin flame, you know, all this stuff. I don't know exactly how much younger he is, like, for a fact. What I do know is there are various little things that have come up along the way that make me feel like, because I said that 5 years, I couldn't go more than 5 years, you know, that was enough of an age gap. You know, then I start looking at things that I remember happening along the way. Like, for one, okay, I remember thinking in high school, what if at some point in time I get to a point where I realize that this, like, everything that's happened was exactly intentional, and I basically set it up this way. So what I was referring to in that particular moment was, you know, I was in this accelerated English class for a college credit, and we had this writing project we were doing where, you know, there's like something with name meanings came up. I don't know if that was the point of the writing project we were doing or that was just the angle that I went with it. But for whatever reason, I was looking at like my name meaning. And yeah, of course, I knew Sarah means princess in Hebrew or whatever. But, you know, when I was thinking about it in high school, it was like, what if the point of my name meaning princess was so that at a time I was struggling with like all this suicidal ideation and whatnot, because at that point I had had a suicide attempt. It's like, what if the point of my name being Sarah was specifically to remind me that I have more value than I'm going to realize for a time, right? So since I had this thought out there, and it's like, ooh, all these other things that could potentially be connected, right? So one of the things that came up along the way was, okay, my school mascot was a dragon. So for I see the sun, like I don't see it like through the clouds, but I see like it's lit up differently, the sky, and there's like there's sun peeking through here somewhere. But anyway, with the dragon. Okay, so of course I did marching band, and 1 year since I went to school when I did, 2000 was a year of the dragon. So as a cool little ode to that fact, and you know, the fact that our mascot was a dragon, our band director put together this show called Year of the Dragon, because it was the year of the dragon. And so come back to the point, the whole, what the biggest age gap I would be willing to date younger, you know, well, when I started looking at those, that fact as well, it's like, okay, so that would be somebody that was, that is not cool, dudes. Just look up and there's like some kind of carcass over here, like 10 feet away from me. I'm gonna have to come back over this way and hope it doesn't get on the camera, because ew. So I don't have to look at it either. Anyway, so 5 years younger than me, that would be 1988, and that would be a year of the dragon. Because everything's connected, right? So it's just like all these little things along the way that have kind of been filing in together, and it's like, here is this point, you know, I've talked a lot about, you know, collecting data, and like something will come up and it's like, okay, this is important, I don't know why, but it's relevant, so we're gonna like file it away for the time being, and at some point it'll make more sense. Okay, so Year of the Dragon, 5 years younger, and then this twin flame thing comes up, and from what I can make sense of, it seems like there is a 5-year age gap there, which is fine, right? I already thought through these things when I wasn't actively thinking through this path. It was just like one of those little things, put a little boop, there's a little pin in it, there's 2222. And yeah, so as I was thinking about that point, let's go back to when I was 4, and when I'm like all just like swoony over this song in a movie, and this lovey feeling, right? If I was 4, and this whole thing, you know, I talked about how it felt like there was a check-in, like, are you sure we are still good for this path? You know, make sure that check-in piece. And I was all about it. You know, this little 4-year-old kid that doesn't understand jack shit, but knows that lovey feeling that she's feeling from the song, and she wants more of that. And yeah, things are gonna get hard for a while, but if they end up in like this like real love story, then it would be totally worth it, right? So, as I've thought, and I've talked about on here before, if he was in fact checking in when I was 4, and he is in fact 5 years younger, that seems like it kind of lines up with, yes, this is the, yes, we're still on track for the thing to work out. So then there's that little shift, you know, the little bit of a, well, I mean, it's more than a little bit of a disconnect, a bigger disconnect with, because it's essentially this part of myself that was always there with me, and then suddenly had to be shut off in a way for him to go on his path, you know, be born. You know, but like just that time frame, it's like, if I was 4 and watching this movie and like all into this feeling, and that was a check-in, and yes, we're on track, so go ahead and be born, then that tracks, right? So, I mean, if you consider the 9 months thing and all that happy stuff, I mean, I don't know what point in the year it was, but But yeah, like he's like, I think his birthday is like a month and 10 days afterward. So, yeah. Numbers that I've seen multiple times on this video so far, even though they've only been through twice, as I've been talking about this even. But yeah. So it's like, the more I'm engaging with like this aspect of things and like starting to piece things together and to allow for the possibility of this whole thing to be like a big magic thing, it feels more exciting, and like there's a lot more going on than I'm even realizing. And I feel like there's a lot of things where I'm starting to see the pieces come together, but even beyond that, it's like there's so much more than what I am even seeing that's actually going on. And has been the case, right? So I'm sure somewhere along the line, when we do actually meet and actually learn each other's stories and all that fun stuff, we're gonna find there's a whole bunch of weird parallels, and the one that is I'm immediately thinking of is, I was with my former in-laws, and it was the last time we went out to eat before I went back to Alabama for the last time for the last trial run to see, it was the make or break it time. It was, is he going to be a decent person that I can actually tolerate being married to, or is this dead and gone? And so we go out, and it's like the end of July or beginning of August, right in that time frame. And my ex-mother-in-law has this Prius that we went out, like we all rode together. Well, my ex's parents and me and him. And there's this band that came on the radio, and I remember looking at the name and repeating the name and saying that's kind of an interesting name. And she said something like, there was a brief conversation, very brief, but the biggest thing that I remember looking back into that moment was, something's not there that's supposed to be there. I was like, so it's just like another one of those moments. It's like where, consciously, like, it's just like this barrel, like, I remember staring at the radio, and I remember we were having this conversation, but I remember just like this feeling that like there's something that's supposed to be there that's not there yet. And yeah, so like that's kind of a weird thing anyway. And that was like, okay, so before I went back to Alabama the last time, so July 2018. But I that was the big thing. It's like I remember having this conversation, but it was just like this moment where it's like this feeling. It's like there's a pin in the moment because it is important, and we'll come back to it. And I think that was the year he joined the band. So, yeah. And again, that's just from what I've heard. And I don't want to actively go look him up and try to learn things about him that way. It's like, if this connection is real, and I feel pretty confident that something more is going on, then I feel like I just want to keep track of like these things as they're coming to me, and like kind of making sense of them, and like filing them into where they go, right? So been collecting the data, and now we're making sense of how it all fits together, right? So that being one of the last conversations I have in person with my former mother-in-law before I actually did divorce her son, right? And I've talked about how like the the 5 guys in this band, they were kind of an activation point for me, right? So, and it was something that I'd seen since my senior year in high school. Like, I always knew there was like this group of 5 guys that I was going to be really close with, and essentially that we're here to change the world together, right? But it's like I didn't know anything beyond that. It's like, how do you make sense of that? And like the example that I had for it was, the band that the guy I was dating in high school was in. But it's like that doesn't make sense, because in the vision that I see, it's just like this sense of like family, right? But then, I've talked about how I just accepted that it was somehow those guys, but then it's like when I've actually thought it through further, it's like that wouldn't make sense for it to be them, because okay, where we're at now, it's like, okay, Steve always hated me, Brandon was just kind of like aloof, he didn't care one way or another. It's like we had no problems with each other, but we weren't friends, and then Paul moved across the country, and Tyler died, and I haven't spoken to the guy that I dated, I think, once since we broke up, right? So it's like, that wouldn't make sense for that to be the group. But then now that this other stuff is starting to come together, it's like, wait a second, so, and of course, there was the specific 5, and some of those have changed out by now, but it's like there was still something more there, right? And it was like there was a twin flame connection, yes, and that's like the biggest trigger point, but also, well, activation, if you will, but also, now it's really muggy. Since it was an activation point, because I wasn't fully, I wasn't then who I am now, because I had a lot of things to heal through, right? That the connection triggered in me to get healing through. But yeah. But it took like the 5 guys specifically to sort of activate me into my healing process, because he wasn't completely where he was meant to be either, right? So it's like there's like this convergence of things, and then kind of, our energies brush past each other, if you will, and then all this stuff happens. Like this whole fucking YouTube thing. That literally the only reason I ever started doing it was because I had that sense of he had to be in a spotlight so I could find him, 3, but how was he ever going to find me, right? So it's like, all right, so I got to start doing something. And it was this. And then I didn't know what it was supposed to be, and then it's become this sort of, healing ground, for this journey to process through all this stuff that, I was carrying all my life, which, there's a bug on my screen, which essentially, like, was the thing that, as I've had stuff to process through and clear out of my system, it's like a back and forth. So, like, there's a time that I have to do some work, and then I kind of just have to chill for a little bit and, recover to make room for the expansion that I've gone through, or am making room for by releasing all this dense energy that was just kind of stuck energy, and all that fun stuff. And, while I'm kind of in my chill mode, then I feel like he's probably more actively doing his work. So it's like, so we can also, while we're recovering for ourselves, I've talked a lot about we also help each other or on the recovery process of this too. So what I'm thinking on that end is, my stomach's making noises again. Lovely. That was just enough of a distraction to throw me off. What was I thinking? Oh, the healing, the expansion, and then recovery time, right? So we go back and forth and take turns, and while we're having the recovery time, that's also holding space for the other person to do some of the work, right? So I've talked about how when I was skating and listening to his music one day, I had this like really strong sense that at a time in my life that I was unable to use my voice, he was learning to use his, and singing and screaming his way through like his music and all that stuff. It's like I couldn't release anything. I was just like absorbing it, like all these bad ideas about why I couldn't use my voice, or why I wasn't powerful in any kind of way or whatever. And through that, he was still doing something that was helping to ease the burden of what I was absorbing at a time I couldn't do it, right? And I couldn't work through navigating that stuff. And I talked about how, a lot about how Tyler's death was the thing that that made it okay. It gave me space to start clearing some of the dense shit that I was just carrying around, right? So like the starting stuff with like, my cousin after he became toxic, because, little 4-year-old kids, we were fine. It was when we were 8 and then all hell broke loose because he was trying to enlighten me. And it's like, just like the way things have worked out along the way has been all an important part of this whole journey. And going back to the song that I was listening to in June, and then all at once just had that revelation that God is love, love is God, love is all there is. It's like even the dark, heavy, dense aspects of the journey was still necessary to get to this point, because it's like this version of me doesn't exist without him existing, period, right? So our energies cross paths, and I've likened it to, I was like a little mouse running through a kitchen and the lights got turned on. It's like, ooh, suddenly I've been spotted and it wasn't okay. But then it like started all this other stuff, and it, like I was made very aware of the fact really quick that I didn't feel safe in my own body. And it's like, okay, well, what do you do with that? And it was just talk through it. And like I didn't necessarily say it as much starting out, but that I've said it a bunch on this YouTube space since then. But when I was starting out, like I was afraid to say certain things, and like the first round of videos, I didn't talk about the twin flame thing at all. And when I started back in March last year, March 2024, I occasionally mentioned it. I don't remember if I told the whole story about like the dream at that point in time. I know I talked about the part where I had the dream and the girl appeared to me, and like I was hiding out in the bathroom because that was what I always did. She like shows up, or she's in the bathroom sitting outside of the stall talking to me, and she says, you need to start sharing the story you already have to share before more of your mission will be revealed. And so because I had been thinking for like a month that I needed to get back to doing the videos again, I was like, okay, well, now that's an obvious sign that it's time to do the thing again. So I started back to the thing. I don't remember if I told the full dream because, you know, that was the one where, like, I saw him, like, it seemed to, like, travel memories for him. And there's, like, a camper van, and I don't know, like, I was trying to avoid looking at the walls because it was like what was going on in his world, and I felt like that was somehow an invasion of privacy, even though this is my dream. You know, like, it was playing on the stalls in the like the bathroom stall walls, the bathroom walls, like beyond the stall, and the other room that I ended up in where I talked about, I was crawling into the room on this, like, comfort mat kind of a thing, like one of those, ergonomic thing, or whatever the word is, where it's supposed to help you if you're on your feet all day on, like, concrete or whatever. But I was like, coming into this room where there's all these people, and I'm, like, crawling, trying not to be noticed, and then all at once he comes in, same way, crawling on one of these comfort mats from another direction, and, you know, our paths cross, and then all at once we're up and running, and it seems like he knows more about what we're doing than I do. So I'm just kind of like, okay, just rolling with it. And then all at once it seemed like he kind of aged, or he got real self-conscious, and like he kind of aged backwards in front of me. And you know, I've talked about that as feeling like just a sign that he wasn't ready. And it's like, well, if it's not ready for me to know what's going on there either, then I don't want that kind of access. But you know, but it's like this dream that I'm having where there's this stuff playing on the walls, and like all I remember was like a grayish camper van kind of a thing, and it seemed like travel memories. And I knew it was his, and I was afraid to look because it felt like an invasion of privacy, even though it's in my dream. And you know, I've talked about how I feel like that wasn't necessarily, I mean, it might have been something that had happened in the past, but I kind of feel like it was also like a little bit of a future prediction, because there was a he did some videos back over the winter, and it seemed like that was the mode of transportation. To like, the fuck? That's weird. You know, so another one of those moments, you know, there's the pin in it, and we're going to come back to this point, and it'll make more sense. But then in the time, it's just, okay, I don't know. We're just along for the ride at this point, right? So, yeah. God, it smells funky out here, and I'm not sure if it's just because of that carcass that it got rained on, or what else might be going on. Shit. My life, y'all. I wrote this thing down that, I mean, it was just like something I was thinking about this morning, and it felt almost like kind of a 333. Wait, 333. There were three of them. Just couldn't say it. You know, I wrote this thing down. I wanted to see if I was able to read it more after I talked my way through a video, rather than just like being all completely nervous about the thing, you know. And I've thought about putting it on YouTube as a short. I've thought about putting it on Instagram as a reel or whatever. I think that's the next step, but it's really uncomfortable. And so I thought there would be a safe space to share it at the end of this video, or middle, whatever the hell we're doing today. It's 44 minutes in, but I'm going to read this thing, and it's only one page, so hopefully it's less complicated than it normally is when I read things. Okay. If this finds its way to you, I pray all the pieces of you that have been scattered to the wind will find their way home, stronger, wiser, and healed, that you would never again deem yourself lacking in any way, and that you would remember from the depths of who you are, and what you came here to do and be. I pray that you realize you already are everything you need to be in this moment, and that all the lies you've believed that have been imposed upon you by the world you were born into or raised in fall away and are replaced by truths that you are brave, you are strong, you are worthy, and you are deeply, deeply loved. I can read it better that way when I'm not tripping over the words and there's not like this whole real long thing. So maybe I'll do a little short video afterwards and just do that part. I just got this really strong sense this morning. It's like, this is the next thing. It's like, and the way of manifesting the things that, we were talking about manifesting, that this is the next step to be able to ground that into happening. Just a little uncomfortable. Because at least if I'm doing a video, it's like however long it takes me to actually get started. And then they're usually pretty slow to begin with, just because I'm like super awkward and don't know what to talk about. And even if I do have an idea of what I want to talk about, sometimes it's hard to get it out, like initially. Excuse me. So yeah. I think it's gonna rain again, or it's starting to rain again. I don't know. Oh, the song this morning, Take My Breath Away. I'm listening to it, right? And I'm sitting there, and I just wrote this thing down. And all at once, my phone rings, and I'm not trying to answer it because I know I'm late on a student loan payment at the moment, but I don't have the money in the bank account to go ahead and pay that. Although I do have a paycheck coming this week again, and my brother still owes me money, so I will get it handled. But in the meantime, they're calling me because it's late, right? Or at least that's my assumption. I don't answer my phone if I can avoid it because it's usually somebody that I don't want to talk to that wants money. So, like, I flip my phone over and hit ignore, and then when I look, it's 11:11. It's like the phone rang just to alert me to what time it was. And there's 4719. 719 is the Tyler number, so there's that point too. Yeah. What is life? Oh, so since it came to mind, I'll go ahead and revisit it. The thing I talked about in yesterday's video that I haven't posted yet because my internet doesn't work right. Maybe that means I need to go somewhere where I can like nab like Starbucks, nab their Wi-Fi or something, right? And then load it from there. That's might be something I do because it's already on my computer. So, yeah. Anyway, so the dream that I started on, or not the dream, well, no, the feeling. I mentioned yesterday there was this moment where it was like on his tour from last year, there was or he had a picture that he posted with some girl that he was on tour with, and it was just like, there was just like this massive sense of jealousy that was just like flared up. And at the time it was like, dude, this feels like completely uncalled for because I've never met this dude and what the hell is going on, and then I talked about the tattoo and when I was trying to, basically when I was doing the shadow work to process through the feeling and what the hell is going on, it took me back to the tattoo and, that fear of abandonment and, that there was some kind of possibility out there or whatever that because of this thing that I wanted to put on my body that's not bad, that was going to be the thing that sent me to hell, right? And so initially, and I had to process through the start point of it was just the abandonment wound. It's like the thought that this could be so horrible, this thing that I wanted would be so horrible that it would be a thing that sent me to hell. It's like, no. You know, I've talked about, this is that one is my 9th, and it was the last one that I got where I had this fear wash over me. Every single one that I had leading up to 9 was that way. This is the first one that I've gotten that I did not have that feeling at all. It's like, hey, cool, I want that. I'm gonna get it. And it was, I went to, I had the derby friend that wanted to go for this flash tattoo thing, and she just wanted somebody to go with her, and it's like, hey, I got some money, I was depressed for something else, and so I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go spend my money on a tattoo, because what the hell. And it was like a design the girl had on her her sheet of paper that she was allowed to do or whatever, and because she was an apprentice, I was like, all right, I like that one. And then I got that one. And at no point did I go through that process of, oh, this is the thing that's going to send me to hell. Because, of course, now my belief is this is the hell space. And the reason it is hell is because we come here and have to forget everything about who we are and what we're here to do, and have to relearn things the hard way before we can get going on what we're supposed to be doing. Right? So my healing journey lived out on the YouTube space is one of the big things that I was supposed to do, and I just made myself bleed. Cool. Anyway, the after I sat with like this whole twin flame connection a bit longer, there was a moment where, like, see, I kept flashing to like these visions where, you know, he'd have his arm around me and like would be standing up, and he'd be like in his studio or whatever, and like I always have him on the left side and like have my hand on his chest and whatnot. It's like, this is the space that like I kept going back to. It's like, okay, so then one day it occurs to me, it's like, that's my fucking spot. That's why it was a problem. You know, because if twin flame connection, that's same energy, basically you're, you know, you're the same energy, same exact soul frequency, and that's my spot. So that was how it hit me the next time. But then it was like, okay, no big deal, whatever. I have a lightning bug coming at me. All right, on your way, little friend. I guess we're just hanging out. What's that one? Something else crawling on the other side. Anyway, yesterday, when I woke up, I talked about how I went to bed the night before, and I was like in this really good space, and, you know, I was feeling like the inner child was the space that I was in, and, you know, just thinking, having these visions of just like playing with friends. You know, even though I'm like at 42, but, you know, who the fuck cares, right? The inner child coming out to play. And yeah, and so I thought, since I was in that space, I should wake up in a pretty good space, right? He's just chilling. My little friend. Oh, there he goes. So I felt like, since that should help me wake up in a good space, because I was in a good space when I went to bed, right? And Abraham Hicks says, if you get into the good feeling space as much as possible, hold that feeling as long as you can, you know, like, if you are able to end your day that way, you're able to start your day that way the next morning, right? Because that's the last energy that you were feeling when you went to sleep. So jumps right into it, right? So my nose itches. Yeah, so with that thought, yesterday I woke up and it wasn't that way. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And it was like, there's this heavy sort of feeling, and it's like, what the fuck? It's like, I'm not okay with this, and I was in a great mood last night, so what the fuck happened? And then basically that thing came back up, you know, the girl, and like the jealousy feeling and like all that And it's like, I had this thought of needing to clear it from my system. And it's like, I went to do a meditation and I could not focus on it at all. Like, I just kept wandering to this darker space until I finally stepped back. It's like, all right, this energetically stepping back from trying to think about meditating and getting this stuff out of my system, this stuck energy. And it's like, okay, that's not working. So I got my journal and I, went through this whole thing of, my mind tried to wander me into some dark places from there. And I was just like, we're not doing that. And I just and I've had these messages that keep popping up in other readings that have been like very focused on forgiveness. And it's like, what do I have to forgive? I don't feel like it. Okay, like most of the stuff that I talk about, like with my family, it's like I don't feel like it's a lack of forgiveness thing there, 5555, that got me there. I feel like it was allowing myself to get run over that got me there. But then what I was thinking was, maybe it's for the connection. And so I was journaling and, I basically went through this thing of, I forgive both of us for anything that we did leading up to this whole connection coming into our lives and really being brought into our awareness. And I release all of this. I forgive it and I release it. And here's where lightning bugging. And it was like, as soon as I was able to do that, and then I went back to the meditations for clearing, it's like, then it was great. So I was like, oh, so apparently there was some stuck energy, whether it was, because of, the jealousy feelings on my end because of it, or, because whatever did or didn't go on leading up to that or after it or whatever. It's like just clearing it out of my system completely to move forward. And it's like, that's one of those things. It's like, the thing that was especially aggravating was that was like a direct response to, okay, I started doing the YouTube thing, right? And I started clearing space. And like, again, the reason I did the YouTube thing was because he had to be in a spotlight so I could find him, but how was he ever going to find me if I didn't start doing something more than I'd ever done, right? So this was the thing that I was doing. And there was still there's been a whole lot of processing through that worthiness wound on here. And basically what happened was there was this span of time where I got really wound up thinking that I'm not good enough, like for this connection. And it was because I had the sense of I am not good enough. Then there was this thing that triggered these very strong feelings and had to be processed through, right? But again, it was because of my worthiness wound and the way I was thinking, and that I don't deserve or I'm not worthy, all of that. And it all went back to, stuff I've processed through on here, basically. The need for the processing through of it all. Excuse me. And yeah. But yeah, it was like the actual seeing the response. I had the thought, now I'm seeing the thing, okay. So then what of the experiences that were like that? Because, okay, my suicidal ideation, that was a huge part of my life. That was one of the biggest themes of the things that I've had to clear out and process through, right? And I didn't think I could possibly be connected to anybody else. I thought I was out there in the world all alone, and nothing I did affected anybody other than myself. So there was a span of time where I was actively doing things to harm me because I was trying to force myself to get into the space where I couldn't not commit suicide, because I had done so much wrong and I had hated myself so much or whatever. It's like I was literally attacking myself in all the ways that I could to force myself to do the thing, because I thought that, for whatever reason, was what I had to do, because the world was demonstrating to me that I was a shit person, and therefore I had to accept it. You know, talking about like all the ways that, you know, the bullies in my lifetime, how I've seen, is like, because I could see the wound that they were living from, I didn't judge them for treating me like shit. I just took it more personally and turned it in on myself to try to destroy myself further. So now that I'm aware of this connection, it's like a big part of that gap and the connectedness is because, you know, whatever one of us, okay, whatever I go through, if this connection is meant to happen, then he's got to have gone to the same dark places within himself and understand those, to be able to hold that energy, right? That my energy of, you know, healing and beyond, and, you know, the darkest, whatever darkness I was diving into, he was there going along too, and I just didn't realize it, right? So all the times that I thought I was doing stuff to hurt only me, and that it was only hurting me, it never was. And it was always affecting at least one, but ultimately all, because we're all here in this together, right? So everything one of us does to harm or heal ourselves harms or heals the whole. And you don't get out of it where you can just only apply that to yourself. It's the group, because we are all a necessary part of the whole, right? And, you know, I talked a lot about building bridges. It's like one of the biggest thing that we're here to do. So we have to be able to, you know, cross into other groups to be able to do that, right? That's why we're all different, but we're all completely necessary. The full expression of who we are, whatever that looks like, however we choose to have our existence, and all that fun stuff. It's all necessary, right? So whatever we do to hurt ourselves hurts the whole. Whatever we do to heal ourselves heals the whole. I think there are a lot of people doing the work, even though there are a lot of people still trying to, you know, throw in the junk that we don't want to take with the whole. There's still, you know, like I've talked about, like with my family, how it's like they're so set on their negativity and everything, and it's like, I spent my whole life pouring myself out to try to fix the hurt in everybody else, and all it did was hurt me and deplete me, right? So it's like, you can't force people to heal if they don't want to be healed. So there's no sense in wasting your energy on the ones that want to enjoy their suffering and for whatever reason, you know, continue on in that way. It's just separate your energy away from them and go do your own thing, right? And eventually you'll find the people that are meant to be in your life and go separate ways from those that aren't, you know. And hoverflies. Yeah, anyway, what time is it? It's 5:24 and my phone is at 26%. And it is my birthday. And I'm supposed to go pick up a cake because my mom got sick. She wants me to go grape shopping. It's like, it is my fucking birthday. On the other hand, yesterday she wanted me to, or she came in the room to say that she wanted me to take my dad to get his license today and go to the bank. And it's like, she walked out of the room and my immediate thought was, it's my birthday. But then also, he's all negative and you don't want to spend time with it, so you're trying to force me into having to spend the time with him so you don't have to deal with it on this end. It's like, that's what this is. So then I was like, no, thank you, that's not going to happen, and that did not happen. I'm not going to get her 6 bags of grapes. I will maybe get her 2, since I'm going that way. Well, at least I get to pick out the cake. But we had ice cream cake the other day. That was better. It'd be nice if we still had that, but you know, whatever. We don't. Is what it is. Yeah, I'm gonna 555. I'm going to wrap it up and see what happens on that end. Maybe go somewhere and nab the Wi-Fi so I can get my damn video uploaded from yesterday and possibly work on getting today's uploaded. Or maybe just let it sit till tomorrow, since we'll see. Anyway, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.